It is July 28th, 2017. This is the Watchman News, and I'm Mike Callahan. I had spoke earlier when I started the show about different things going on with the sanctions that the United States has recently put on Russia. And today news came about the United States putting sanctions on Iran for launching a satellite. In a clear double standard. Russia has vowed that they're not going to take this, in different words, that they're not going to take this sitting down. I have a feeling Iran isn't going to take it sitting down. And we have a trend now of pitting countries against us. Now, this trend started way back, probably about 2003, when folks realized that there was no weapons of mass destruction. They started to be a bit more watchful, and it's just never ending. And it goes back further than that. Of course, you've got the first Gulf War conflict. You've got the fake gassing of the hospital. And I can't say the gassing was fake, but what I can say... Well, actually, yeah, I can. I can. I apologize. I think the gassing has been determined to be fake. And the whole story about turning the incubators over with the babies in them and dumping the babies on the floor and then stealing the incubators and all that was all bogus. And it was trying to ramp public opinion up to support going into war. And so they got that. They got their public opinion, they've got their public support, and they went into war. Bush Sr. at some point ordered them, or somebody had ordered them, to carpet bomb a roadway. That would be a roadway that was filled with innocent women, men, and children. And they just carpet bombed the entire thing. Absolutely sickening. And I think there are some that really started to watch things at that point. But I think the majority was unaware that their government could be so vile. So we fast forward to today, and we've got this situation with ICBM missile tests from North Korea. Of course, I mentioned Iran launching a satellite into space. I don't know what kind of satellite. And the tensions of world leaders are very high right now against the United States. You even now have some European countries coming out and saying that they're not going to back us. And the problem is the big dumb puppy don't know when to stop. Don't know when to quit while it's ahead, if you can call this ahead. So after North Korea had launched another ICBM test today, apparently, and this is the first article of two, apparently the United States and Seoul conducted a ballistic missile test following Korea's test. So I'll read you this article, and then the next one's a zinger. I'll put the links down in the description. U.S. and Seoul Korean forces held a ballistic missile launch hours after Pyongyang tested yet another missile this morning. The South Korean and U.S. military staged the launch in direct response to Pyongyang, according to South Korea's Yonhap news agency. The test was aimed at reaffirming the Allies' capabilities for a precise strike on the enemy's leadership, a statement by the Joint Chiefs of Staff reportedly said. The forces fired Hyunmoo-2 and a surface-to-air missile with a range of 190 miles. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres blasted North Korea's experimenting with a ballistic missile of possible intercontinental range, a spokesman said Friday. The Pentagon assessed the missile to have intercontinental distance capability. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the missile appeared to be a medium-range ballistic missile based on its technical characteristic. Not a whole lot there in that. So they do a test and we try to show that we have a bigger test, if you get what I'm saying. That's one thing. That's one thing. And that, in and of itself, is really not much of anything. But China and Russia and others have made it well known of their displeasure, to put it in a word, of our THAAD missile system in South Korea. Now, as you may recall, supposedly we had sent 2 of them there and somehow wound up with 6 of them there, I guess. So, far as I know, the truth is, when we supposedly only had 2 there, we truthfully had 6 there, and now we have this. Additional THAAD missile launchers to be deployed at U.S. base in South Korea. Sorry, I almost said Seoul. South Korean President Moon Jae-in has announced that a new set of missile interception launch platforms will be deployed at a U.S. military base in South Korea, according to the public news outlet Yonhap. If you can hear a leaf blower in the background, I apologize. The Interceptor is part of the U.S. Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Missile Interception System. President Moon delayed the deployment of the THAAD shortly after assuming office in May, citing environmental concerns. When he did so, 2 of 6 planned THAAD platforms had already been rolled out. Now that's interesting. That's the very first time that I've even heard that number, aside from when they were surprised by there being that number. Moon has, by the way, there's 6 of 6 that we're at least aware of at this point have been deployed. I don't know why people are still saying 2. Moon has also called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council after North Korea test-fired what was seemingly a medium-range intercontinental ballistic missile on Friday. President Moon has called for new and stronger sanctions against Pyongyang. The U.S. has agreed to pay for the installation and the maintenance of the THAAD, which is meant to protect South Korea from a DPRK missile strike. It is made to intercept short and medium-range missiles, including ballistics. President Moon's official reason for delaying the THAAD deployment, which was already signed into law, was to perform an environmental impact analysis. But the administration of disgraced President Park Geun-hye had already performed such analysis in December 2016. This led to speculation that Moon was instead stalling on the deployment to improve his country's relationship with the North, as well as China and Russia, who all protested the THAAD. So, we're just going to keep pushing this and pushing this, because at some point, everybody has the right to self-preservation, right? And although the thought of the THAAD system is innocent enough, because, hey, who could be against somebody protecting a country from nuclear annihilation? I mean, how could you say anything wrong with that? Well, the problem is the technology that these THAAD missile systems have, specifically with the radar system. So, from my understanding, that their radar is so powerful that it can actually, if I'm not mistaken, if I heard this correctly, could actually be able to look into the airspace of, I guess, just the airspace of countries like Russia and China. So I don't, I don't personally know the system. I haven't personally researched the system or anything like that, but that it came from enough sources that I would say it's a non-issue as far as whether or not that's correct information. So once again, we're going into a weekend in this type of a situation to where I'm gonna ask you all to be very vigilant. It doesn't take that long. Doesn't take that long, right? You light a wick on a firecracker, and you better get away from it quick. Right? Situation's the same. Once this cuts loose, it's not going to take long. And we just apparently cannot resist trying to get this kicked off. So again, I would ask people to keep their eyes and ears open, remain vigilant, have yourself as prepared as you can be, regardless of how little or great that amount of preparation may be. Because again, we don't get to pick and choose. We don't have that. And hindsight is typically always 20/20, but that might be fine for some things, but in a survival or a life and death situation, hindsight's not worth the amount of letters it takes to spell it. So be mindful, be vigilant, keep your eye on it, keep your eye on the important news. And as usual, if something more comes of this over the weekend, I will definitely advise everyone of what's going on. So, my goodness, it's getting crazier by the day.